All right, we are on Daf Mem Ches, top of the page, 48. In Sukkah, we have, we're coming down. We're coming down to the wire. All right, here we go. Like the Elga Mishnah. Halal ve'asimcha, we mentioned in the beginning of the parak that halal, saying halal, and simcha, which Rashi learned meant having basar shlomim, is shmeina. Oh, before we continue, yesterday we spoke about lina. We spoke about spending the night in Yerushalayim after Yantav. So we were talking about is it has to do with the carbon or not. So there, the Gemara was learning out that even though there is no carbon that you're specifically bringing on Shmini Atzeres, there would be an inyan just because there's an inyan of lina of the Yom Tov is machayev you to stay over a night, not because you're bringing any specific carbon. The lina on Shmini Atzeres would just be because we have a limit for it. That's it. It's not because of a carbon; it's because of the Yom Tov.
Same with Pesach.
The Pesach, you had a carbon Pesach.
Yeah.
Had Earl Surreal, you always have carbonis. Here there's no carbon. This is lina. Okay. Halal v'asimcha shmeina. So you have halal and simcha for all 8 days. Ketzad. It doesn't really work this Ketzad, but because it's said it until now, so we say we're using the same format, even though that's not what the Gemara is answering. Melamed, the fact that it's 8 days, this comes to teach you shechayiv adam b'halal u'besimcha v'kavod yom tov ha'achrin shel chag kishar kol yemei sachag. That there's a din of simcha on Shmini Atzeres like there is the other 7 days of Yom Tov as well. Now there's a bit of the Mishnah is a little bit long here. It says halal, simcha, and kavod Yom Tov ha'achrin. What are we adding with kavod Yom Tov? So I didn't find an answer to what it's adding. I only found that there's a gears in the Rif takes out the first two. It doesn't say halal and simcha. It just says kavod shel Yom Tov. So kavod shel Yom Tov sounds like it's just a shortened way of saying halal and simcha. According to this girsa, I'm not sure what we'd be adding with kavod. Okay.
How does a person celebrate?
How do you have simcha? So simcha, Rashi learns that it's talking about shalmei simcha, eating basar shlomim. We nowadays we pretty much do we use yayin. I don't know if it's where's that sugya of simcha.
So basically, you have a drink.
Yeah.
Or get into a different. So how is different decaying?
I don't know. It's a machlokes. I don't remember exactly if it's a where what? No. There's it's not maybe some psachim though that how you fulfill some chazamtiv. It says there was basar shlamim, there's yayin, there was buying the women clothing. Was it in some chazamtiv? Giving kids candy or nuts? That is all included in some chazamtiv. So the Pashas is that the mitzvah is not to be b'simcha, but it's to do things that will bring you to simcha. But if I'm not mistaken, I think the Gaon would say that the hardest mitzvah to be Makayim was being b'simachta for 7 days. You have to be happy for 7 days. So, okay. So it says the Gemara, Mina'ani Mili. Where do we know that there's a mitzvah of simcha Yom Tov on Shmini Atzeres? Mina'ani Mili. That Shmini is chayiv and simcha. Meaning, by Sukkot, it says, Shivis Yom Tocheg L'Hashem L'Kecha, and then it says, V'samachta B'chagecha. So it says that clearly, that he has a mitzvah of simchas. The fact that, the word chag means celebration. Right, that we call Sukkot the chag. The chag means to celebrate. So that's the mitzvah. So that's clear. It says 7 days you got to be b'simcha on Sukkot. But what about Shmini Atzeres? So the Torah about we have a brisa. The pasuk says v'hayisa ach sameach. So that's actually there's no pasuk contrary to the song. There's no pasuk that says v'samachta b'chagecha v'hayisa ach sameach. No such thing. There's a pasuk that begins. There's one pasuk that says v'samachta b'chagecha, and then a pasuk or two later it says shiva Hashem tacheg l'Hashem alekecha b'makom asher yivcha Hashem ki yivrach Hashem alekecha b'chol tvoasecha b'chol mas yedecha v'hayisa ach sameach, and you should be only happy. So ach is coming to be marv. V'yisa ach sameach is l'rabbis leile yom tov achrei. It's coming to tell you that you also have to include the night after, meaning the night of Shmini Atzeres, meaning that you should do things on Shvi, on Hoshana Rabbah, meaning bring a carbon shlamim on Shvi that will enable you to be besimcha on the night afterwards. V'yisa ach sameach. You should make sure to be happy the night afterwards as well. Maybe it's coming to tell you that you should bring a carbon on Erev Yom Tov, So you should be misamech on the first night of Yom Tov, meaning the days of Yom Tov. The pasuk says Shivas Yamim. So we know all the days of Yom Tov you have to be happy. But maybe the first night of Yom Tov, there's no pasuk for that. So maybe Vayisa Ach Samech has come to remember that. Kishu Aimer Ach Cholak. Ach is saying Ach is Amir. It's Machalik. It's saying that it's going to be marba a night, but not all nights. It's being marba the last night and not the first night. Well, why do that? Maybe you should marba the first night and not the last night, meaning the night of Shmini Atzeres. Says the Gemara, why would you do that? We choose to include the night of Shmini Atzeres in the midst of Simchas Yom Tov because because you've been partying the whole week already. So if I'm going to include a night, it'll be the night that follows the day of Simcha, as opposed to Maitzani Leila Yom Tov Harishon she'ain Simcha Levanav. On Erev Yom Tov, there was no mitzvah of Simcha. So therefore, the night of Yom Tov, the first night of Yom Tov, there is no mitzvah of Simcha. And it comes out the Hamaskana of our Gemara is that Leil Yom Tov Rishon Shel Sukkos. The first night of Sukkos, there is no mitzvah de'iraisa of Simcha.
You have to eat in the rain.
Well, very good. There's no mitzvah de'iraisa of Simcha on the first night of Yom Tov. On the last night, on Shmini Atzeres, there is a mitzvah de'iraisa of Simchas Yom Tov. Now,
you need it. The first night
you feel it anyway.
You have the Simcha.
It's true, but the Indian is that, but the Shagas Aryeh though asks, it doesn't ask the kasha, but I didn't see it inside, so I brought down beautiful Shagas Aryeh. The Gemara says that when it comes to an Arba Psachim, says what happens if you drink the Arba Kaisis Bevasachas? You didn't do it throughout the Suda. You lined up 4 cups and you drank Azai. Right? You drank the 4th thing, right? 4 cups in a row. So the Gemara says, Yidei Yayin Yatza, Yidei Cheres Lo Yatza. It's not there Cheres. So the Dal of Kaisis you didn't fulfill, but Yidei Yayin Yatza, you fulfilled your mitzvah of Yayin. What mitzvah is that? The Rashbam says it's the mitzvah of Simchas Yom Tov. But 1 second. This is the first night of Yom Tov. The first night of Pesach, Leila Yom Tov Harishon doesn't have a mitzvah of Simcha. Says the Shai Kasari that even if there's no Simcha the mitzvah the Eraisa of Simcha Yom Tov on the first night, it seems like there is this mitzvah the Rabbanan of Simcha Yom Tov on the first night. I think in Afkamina, I don't remember this for sure. I didn't look this up, but it could be a tali if you'd have a chiyuv to repeat Yal V'Yava in benching. Maybe if that's tali in Simcha Yom Tov. The Chiyuv Suda is totally in Simchas Yom Tov, maybe. Meaning, where's the Chiyuv Suda coming on the first night of Yom Tov from? Usually it comes from the mitzvah of Simcha. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying that. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, that is.
You have the korban the first night.
I'm sorry?
You have the korban.
Yeah, well, you're eating basar, but there's not. That's it. Korban Pesach. But is there a mitzvah midiraisa of Simcha? There's an inyan of Simchas Yom Tov. Is there a mitzvah deraisa of Simchas Yom Tov the first night? Here, Argumar says the first night of Yom Tov, there's no mitzvah deraisa of Simchas Yom Tov, but on Shmini Atzeres there is, right? And Shmini Atzeres usually iskamati. It's Shat Rab was a long davening. By Chasim there in shul until like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But that night is a mitzvah deraisa. Maybe that's why I do Akafas Shniz, Akafas, the first night. So you have an extra Simchas Yom Tov. Okay, Zakti Mishnah Vayter Masnis Sukka Shiva Keitzad. The Mishnah said that the mitzvah of Sukkah is for 7 days. Okay, Keitzad. Well, Gomer Melechol, if you finish the eating on Shana Rabbah, Lo Yater Es Sukkasei, don't untie your Sukkah, don't take down your Sukkah, because if you're going to have another meal, if you get hungry again, you're going to have to be back in the Sukkah. Rashi adds that though. He says, because you have to sleep Ulashane. You got to sleep and learn in the Sukkah. And if you want to eat, you have to eat in the Sukkah too. So therefore, that's what it means, mitzvah Sukkah Shiva, all 7 days, up until and including you get to the nighttime, you got to be in that sukkah. Okay, but when mincha time comes, you can start bringing in your kalim. Meaning, remember the Mishnah told us, the Gemara told us that you have to bring in your nice mattresses and the nice your table and chairs, whatever you had, you brought into the sukkah. So now you got to start getting ready for Shmini Atzeres. So it says mipnei kvoid yom tov ha'achron shel chag. For kvoid, it's the same lashon of the Mishnah before. Kvoid yom tov ha'achron shel chag is going to require you to have your stuff inside. That you have something that you have. It looks yom tov inside. You can't come into the empty house and have nothing in the house. So you're allowed to be mayri, you're allowed to start taking things out of the sukkah into your house to start preparing for Shmini Atzeres on sukkahs. Okay. Says the Gemara, Ein la kalim lahirid mahu. It's a funny question. If you have no kalim, you have no kalim to take down, so what should you do? So I would have said, all right, I mean, yeah, what are you supposed to do? But Gemara has a different issue with it. The Gemara says, meaning the Gemara makes it sound like there's a halacha that you have to bring your kalim in, right, to set up for Yom Tov. So Gemara's asking, if you don't have kalim, so now what should you do? Well, if you don't have kalim, you didn't bring any kalim in the first place. Your Yom Tov doesn't look so nice anyway. But that's not the Gemara kasha. Gemara's kasha is 1 second. What do you mean you have no kalim? What are you sitting on? What are you eating off of? You got something there. Ella. No, the question was ainly makim lahirid kalim. What if this is your porch is where you eat? That's your dining room. So now you're not bringing anything in. So now what do you do? So what should you do? Meaning the point is that if I'm going to be eating in my sukkah on Shmini Atzeres, so what should you do? And the issue really is going to be an issue of a bigger question. The question is, if you're eating, what should you do that it shouldn't look like you're being meisif an extra day onto sukkahs? Now it's really a lamdish kasha. It's a kasha bal taisif. What are you going to do? Meaning, if you are eating in your sukkah on Shemini Atzeres, when you're again thinking about Eretz Yisrael, when it's not a sukkah yom, so you shouldn't be eating in your sukkah. Well, if you're going to be eating there l'shem sukkah, so that could be bal taisif. So like, what should you do? So it shouldn't look like you're adding onto the Yom Tov. So what should you do? Oh, now that's already lamdish kasha. The Gemara gives you some answers. Reb Chia bar Ashi Amar Poiches ba'arba. You should passel your sukkah. Poiches ba'arba means you should arba tvachim upsul. You should take off four tvachim. Now, this is like 4 tvachim. That's an odd number. If you're trying to passel your sukkah by taking off some schach, well, 3 tvachim is enough, because all you need 3 tvachim of avir passels. So what is 4 tvachim? That means you're putting up for like 4 tvachim pasel schach, but it's not what the lashon peiches means. Peiches means to uncover. So Taisus and the Taisus peiches ba'arba tvachim u'psul kach b'yishkosh v'tema. Ma shiru zeh ba'arba. What is this shir? 4 tvachim. V'lei avir peisel b'shleisha. Bein b'sukkah gedel, bein b'sukkah ketana, bein b'emtza. 3. If you're being peiches, it means you're taking something away. So what's 4 tvachim?
I think 4, you're definitely possible.
Yeah, but 3 is enough.
3 is lovely.
Less than 3 is loved.
I mean, less than 3. Yeah. So
3 would have been good enough. Yeah. So he doesn't know what the shir of arba tvachim is. Taisus. Okay. So that was 1 answer. Rabbi Shua ben Levi Amar Madlik ba es haner. You light a candle. Remember, we learned that you're not allowed to put a candle in your sukkah. Right? If you have a small sukkah, the Gemara said you can't put a candle in. The Gemara says, Halan haluhu. Meaning, Rav Ashi, who says that you should passel your sukkah, Rav Chia bar Ashi, who says you should pass your sukkah, he was talking to people in Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, you don't need a sukkah on the 8th day. Right? So he says, so passel it. But Halan.
Isn't the concept of reading the sukkah make a relationship with sukkah? You don't make a sukkah. Then what's the question of passing? That's it. I'm not doing it.
If you're making it.
I'm just eating. I'm looking at the sukkah like any other room.
What
makes the sukkah when you're sitting in the sukkah? You make a relationship about sukkah. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm just talking out of my head.
Right. I mean, let's say the opposite way. Let's say the opposite way. Let's say the first night of Yom Tov, you didn't say Elisha Basukah. Did you Makayim the mitzvah? Of course. You don't need to make a bracha to be Makayim a mitzvah.
I don't know. You're telling me.
I'm telling you. You don't need
to make a bracha.
No, I'm just saying that if you didn't make a bracha, you can still fulfill a mitzvah. Mitzvah, you're supposed to make a bracha, but you're able to fulfill the mitzvah even if you didn't make the bracha. If you picked up your lulav and you didn't make a bracha, you're still yaitz the mitzvah. Right now. No, I'm just saying, if you sat in your sukkah and you never made a bracha on your sukkah, did you fulfill the mitzvah of sukkah?
Yeah, I'm sitting in the sukkah.
Yes, you fulfilled the mitzvah.
So why do I have to make a relationship about sukkah every time I'm sitting down in the sukkah?
Because you're supposed to make a bracha before you do a mitzvah. But if you didn't, you still fulfilled the mitzvah.
I fulfilled the mitzvah anyway.
Correct.
So the whole thing, maybe it's the other way around.
So I'm just saying that therefore, therefore you don't need. You're saying a good point that the fact that I'm not making a bracha should be enough to show me that I'm not trying to fulfill the mitzvah. Could be. It could be, but but being that you can fulfill the mitzvah even without making a bracha, so maybe you need to do something more than that. So the Gemara is saying that you should passel your sukkah, but that's only if you're living in Eretz Yisrael. But if you live in Chutz La'aretz where you have to eat in the sukkah because of a sake of the yoma, so his advice was don't passel the sukkah, but do something to show that you're not the sukkah is it's not puzzle, but I'm not trying to sit in the sukkah mishum sukkah. So I bring something in that I wouldn't normally have. Says the Gemara. That's fine if you have a little sukkah, a candle will do the job. But sukkah gadol, if I have a large sukkah, so ma'ikal member, what should I do now? Bringing in a candle. I always have candles in there. So it says the ma'al b'mani michla, bring in their pots, which you're not supposed to have in your sukkah. The amarava mani michla b'mitla. Also be said the pots or the food. You're supposed to clear off the dishes when they're dirty. You're supposed to clear them off, take them out of the sukkah. So here you leave your pot, your dirty dishes in the sukkah. And mani mishasim b'mitla also, and the drinking kalim you can leave them there. That is what he says. So now we have machlokes between Rashi and the Rif and the Rush. Rashi learns this is talking about on day 8, even in Chutz La'aretz. And Rashi is saying that you're supposed to do something in your sukkah on day 8 to show you when you're eating there on Shmini Atzeres to show that it's not sukkahs. It's only sake of the yema. The Rishayim, Rif and the Rush they learn now. We're talking about it on day 9. Avada on day 8 when you're eating there because of Shmini, because of sake of the yema, you don't have to passel your sukkah. You shouldn't passel your sukkah. You shouldn't bring things in. But if you happen to be eating there on day 9, that's when you should be doing something like this. Okay. Like the Mishnah like
if you're going to leave dirty pots and pans, now you're going against the Indian of that's covered yontif. You really, you know what I mean?
It's not covered sukkah. I don't know if it's not covered yantiv.
If you learn it's the 9th day, then it's not covered yontif to bring dirty pots and pans.
No, not to bring it means you leave it there.
Yeah, that's not covered yontif. To leave dirty pots and pans in wherever you were. Not
you put it on the side of the sukkah. You don't have to have it on your table. But it's in the sukkah. The point is that it's in the sukkah. Zak the Mishnah. Nisach hamayim case. Oh, now we're up to Nisach hamayim. Nisach hamayim. Remember, we had a machlekes if we learned it from a gzeres from the pasuk, or it's Allah Mesh Sinai. But it's definitely a nasmachta. I thought the Gemara brings it somewhere. There's Nisach hamayim. Is that you pour water on the mizbeach every day? They would pour yayin on the mizbeach, and during sukkahs they would pour water on. Well, there was a little pipe on the mizbeach where they pour water, and we'll discuss that right now. Kesai. So what did they do? So they would have a beautiful golden pitcher, and that would hold 3 lugim of water, and they would fill it up from the shiloach. Why the shiloach? Shiloach was a spring outside Yerushalayim. So either because lechatchila should have water from a mayon, that's why lechatchila was in to have it from a mayon, because it says ushafta mayim besasin mi mayinei hayeshua. So it's coming from a mayin. We'll see that on Taisus on Amud Beis. Others say it was from the shiloach, just to annoy the tzedukim, just to make a big fanfare out of it, because the tzedukim didn't hold of Nisach hamayim. So he did is we wanted to make it to show that that we're doing this and wanted everybody to know about it. So they went down to the shiloach outside Yerushalayim and they brought the water in, and maybe that was why they made such a big party. But it was anti tzeduki Indian. Okay, they reached the Shar Hamayim, which was called the Shar Hamayim because that's where they would come. Tiku v'hariu v'tiku. They would blow the shofars. Now it's interesting. Rashi says that they blew the shofar out of mishum simcha, right? Which I don't have an answer to this. I was just making the ha'ara because we know we blow the shofar in El because the pasuk says "Katan b'shofar v'amla yecharadu." The shofar instills fear, right? But here they're blowing the shofar to bring a simcha. I don't know. They're blowing Turku v'hariu v'tiku, and that was the ending of simcha. So that was interesting. Allah b'kavish. Yeah. Okay. So maybe it was trumpets. Yeah. Okay. Tiku v'hariu v'tiku. Allah b'kavish. They went up the ramp. Upanal smoilai. Here they turned left. Usually when you got up to the ramp, you turned right. But here you turned left. We'll see why in the Gemara. And shnei safalim shel kesef hayu. There were 2 bowls, silver bowls, on the mizbeach. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer shel sid hayu. Rabbi Yehuda says they were actually made out of sid, which is like plaster or lime. It just looked like silver. mushcharin peneim ibnei yayin, but they got their color changed dark because of the wine that was poured on them. They didn't polish their silver too often, so it was black. Umunu kavin, and there was a holes. Rashi learns very interestingly. Rashi learns that they were like these two like bowls, and the bowl had in the middle of the bowl had like a pipe coming out of it that looked like a nose sticking out of the bowl. Okay, this is like I don't know. We got this from Rashi, but that's how Rashi learns. And shnei chaytmin dakin, the achas muv duck. One was thicker than the other. One was a little thinner. Kadesh you shneim kol mevasachis. In order that when you would pour wine and the water at the same time, they'd actually pour out. They'd come out simultaneously from these like little spouts. Thank you. Now achas maravi. I'm sorry, Maravi Shalmaim, the one closer to the corner of the Mizbeach, that's Ma'ariv. Because when you get up to the Mizbeach and you turn left, now you're facing west. Okay? So the one further west on the corner was the one that you poured the water in, and Mizrachi, the one closer to you, away from the corner, which is the Mizrachi, was Shal Yain. Ira Shalmaim L'tech Shal Yain. If you made a mistake and you poured one into the other, that was fine. You were yotze. Now, these.
There was only one ramp.
What do you mean?
Yeah,
there was one ramp. There's a big ramp.
Yeah, but the place.
Well, not on only the kohen went up on the mizbeach.
Only the kohen went up.
To do this service.
But there's more than one kohen.
Yeah, but it was, I don't know how, I think only one person did this. Maybe two went with the Nisa Chayayin and one did the Nisa Chamayim. The big ramp.
This was a very happy time.
The place was rocking. It was, they were up all night partying. Simchas Beis HaShoeva. Probably also, I would imagine. there was always a barbecue in the Beis HaMikdash. They were always barbecuing. Now, just, it doesn't say here. Yeah, but after it came out of the spout, there were two pipes in the when it came out of this spout, so there was a hole in the mizbech, two holes in the mizbech that the water and the wine would go into, and they would go all the way down into the ground through those two pipes. Okay, now Rabbi Yehuda argues on the shear and how often this was done, which we mentioned before. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer belug haymenasach, not 3 lugan, it was only 1 loig, and it was kol shema, and he held he also did this on Shmini Atzeres. Okay. Now, ul menasech, to the person pouring the water, Aimer lai, they would say to him, Hagbei yodacha, lift up your hand. I mean, we want to see what you're doing. Because one time there was a tzeduki who went up, a kain tzeduki, who went up there, and instead of pouring again, remember the tzedukim held that they didn't agree to this. It was Allah L'Mashim Sina, it's not in the Torah, they didn't agree to this. And nisach al gabi raglav, he poured the water on his feet. Uragmuhu kol ambes regein. Everybody took their esregim and stoned him. That was it for him. So therefore, they told the guy, "Let's see what you're doing," so that wouldn't happen again. It was the same avodah during the weekend on Shabbos. They wouldn't draw the water from the shiloach on Shabbos. They would do that on Erev Shabbos. They would draw it in a chavdas shel zav, in a barrel of gold that was not kodesh from the shiloach, menicha b'lishka, and they would leave it in the lishka. Now nishpacha, if it spilled, or nizgalsa, if it got uncovered, so if the wine, if something happened to the wine, they would just take it from the kiyar, which was in the Beis HaMikdash, and they would use that. Shayan b'mayim.
The wine or water?
Either. But here we're talking about the water. The rule is shayayin v'hamayim magulin pesul l'gam mizbeach. If wine or water was megula, if it was left uncovered overnight, it was possible for the mizbeach. Okay. The reason for that, Rashi says, is because we're scared that a snake drank from it, and then you're not going to have a shear. If you put some venom into it, then you're not going to have a shear of shleish lugan of water, because some of the venom would be in there also. That's what Rashi learns. Taisus doesn't like that. He says the issue is just because it's not nice. You don't bring something that the animal drank from. You don't bring that on the mizbeach. Okay. Let's see the Gemara. So from where do we know? Rashi learns the question is that we would blow taikin or marin, that they would blow either trumpets or shofars when they were drawing the water for the Nisa Chamayim. And the answer is Amar V'ina Adam Akra Ushaftamayim B'Sasain, because you're supposed to draw water with joy. Taisus learns, if you look at the bottom Taisus, he learns the question a little bit differently. He learns on the second to last line on the page, and Taisus, he says, V'oyesh Lefarish, the Menolan the Meh Shiloach Boy. How do you know that we're drawing it from the Shiloach? And on that, the Gemara answers, because the pasuk says, "Ushaftamayim b'sasain mimayinei Yeshua," from a mayan, from a spring. Okay.
The
Shiloach.
It's right underneath the. Is that the shore? Is that the stream? You go underneath the your David. You walk down one with the bottom. That's it. Outside.
Is it Samach L'Yerushalayim?
There's also the Gichon.
The Gichon.
Maybe that's the Gichon. Or maybe I'm thinking of Gichon.
Okay. Zakt the Gemara. Hanu, this is a interesting. I got it. The Gemara. Hanu Tremini. There were two apikarsim. Chad Shmei Sasan, the Chad Shmei Simcha. One's name was Sasan, and the other guy's name was Simcha. Okay. Amr le Sasan le Simcha. So Sasan said to Simcha, "Ana different minach. I'm better than you." D'chsev, because look, he brought a brayah from a pasuk. Sasan v'Simcha yasigu. So you see, Sasan said to him, you see that I come first. Sasan v'Simcha yasigu. So Sasan comes first. And we're like Simcha l'Sasan, and then Simcha said to Sasan, "Ah, not different minach. I'm better than you." D'chsev Simcha v'Sasan la Yehudim. So you see, Simcha comes first. Amr le Sasan l'Simcha. Sasan, it gets better. Sasan says to Simcha, Chad Yom, I want you to let you know, one day, Shavkucha, they're going to dismiss you, and Vishavyucha Parvanka, they're going to make you into a runner, into a messenger boy. How do I know? D'chsiv, because the pasuk says, Ki besimcha seitzayu. Because when Simcha, they're going to go out, you're going to go in front of everybody, you'll be the runner in front of everybody. Because besimcha seitzayu. Amr lehi Simcha l'Sasan, Simcha told Sasan, Chad Yom Shavkucha, they're going to dismiss you. Umalu b'chamaya, and they're going to use you to draw water. They drew water with Sasan. Now, Amr lehumina Shmei Sasan l'Rav Avo. There was another man whose name was Sasan, and he said to Rav Avo, he said, "Listen, Rav Avo, asidisai in the future, the tamalu li mayim la'alma da'asi. In the next world, it says everyone's going to be filling water for me. You see, people are going to be serving me. This is what the Apikar said to Rabbi Vo. All you guys are going to be serving me, because the pasuk says Ushaftamayim b'Sasan. And he's saying you're going to be drawing water for Sasan. So Rabbi Vo told them, Amr leim, ihaviksiv lisasain. If it would have said lisasain, that Ushaftamayim lisasain, then Kedakamet, you would be right. They'd be drawing water for you for Sasain. But Hashid Chsiv Bisasain, now that the pasuk says Bisasain, then Mashchedahu Gaver Mashvina Leguda. They're going to take your skin and they're going to turn it into a pouch or a deli, umalin and beimayam. They're going to use that to fill up water. All right. A good comeback. All right. The Marsha, he said, I was looking for, Marsha says that this is just, the Gemara is showing that the minim would, show psukim to each other, show how, they would misuse the psukim, and the other one was showing him how, the point is that you can dash in a pasuk however you want, but the point of the Gemara is saying is that you can do whatever you want, but you could be wrong too. Your drushes could be wrong. So that was the nakuda that the Gemara is making. It's a good nakuda. People use, especially medrash. You can bring a raya to any shita you want. You can find a raya to, and on anything. But you have to know what's right and what's mukubal and what's not. Okay. So the Mishnah said that you go up the ramp and you turn to the left. Turn Rabbanon. The Brayso Torah. Whenever you went on to the mizbeach, you went up. You walked on the right. The yard in derech small, and you would come down, and you would walk around the mizbeach, always going to the right, and you'd come around the back down. You'd be on the left side of the ramp. Chutz mina oil l'shleisha dvarim, except when you're going up for one of these following three things, and they are sha'oil and derech small. They go up to the left, v'chayzin ala kevav, and they just go backwards. They don't walk around the whole mizbeach. They just go up, they turn left, and then they come backwards. And who's that? Ve'elohein, Nisa Chamayim, Nisa Chayayin, Va'oile Sa'av, Kisharab Mizbeach. We'll go backwards. Oile Sa'av, Kisharab Mizbeach is discussing. Remember, the Oile Sa'av is really brought on the southeastern. So that's when you go up and you make a right, the first corner. That's what you brought the Oile Sa'av, because they would take the oif and throw it they throw it off the, what was it called? Do they throw it onto the deshin, into the base of deshin, which is over there. But if it got too crowded over this, then you would go to the left. I remember we discussed that when the guy ate from the wrong oil. Remember, he ate from there was a chattas saif, he ended up eating the oil saif, because there must have been someone who went to the left. That was one. And then there's Nisachaya and Nisachman, because that's where it is. Now, why not? Why don't we just have them walk around? Let them walk around the whole Mizbeach. The Rashi says, because he brings a Gemara in Shchitas Kachim that says, because by the Nechsachim we're worried that they're going to get ruined by the smoke if you're going to walk around the Mizbeach. The wine or the water will get smoky. So we don't want that to happen. And we're concerned that the bird will die by the time you walk around the Mizbeach. That was a far walk. It was at least 100 amma walk. So we didn't want the bird dying, and we didn't want your wine and water to get smoky. So therefore, you just you turned left, and then you came back.
What was the concept of all that? Walk around?
Because you always go right. The halach is when you go onto the Mizbeach, when all you turn, kol pina sh'adam poina is liyamin. Whenever you turn, it's supposed to be to your right. That also takes halacha when we light the Chanukiyah. When we light the menorah, we start from the left and we turn right. Same old principle there. The kol pina sh'adam poina is liyamin. Okay. Zok the Gemara weiter. Okay. Ella Shahim Ashchirin. So they right. Who was that? Rabbi Yehuda said that they weren't made out of silver. They were actually made out of sid, but they turned black from the wine. So that Mar said, 1 second. I understand Bishlam the Yain Mash. I understand how the Nisa Chayayin bowl turned black because you're pouring wine in it. But why would the Nisa Chamayim bowl turn black? You're only pouring water in there. The Maya Mashka, why did that turn colors? Where it says, so being that the Evid, you could if you pour it into one, or if you pour it into the other one, you're Yaitza, so then Shalmayim Asil Ashkur, the one for water also turned.
How often are people messing up?
So A, how often? And B, it doesn't, it's interesting, like, why would you bring that phrase to tell you that halacha? Meaning, you just tell me that because people did it in the wrong one. Who cares if you were yaitza or not? It's irrelevant. Even if you weren't yaitza, people were doing it, so then it would turn black also. So the Tarot is that being that be the Evid, you could be yaitza in either one. It sounds like the Kahanim didn't really pay attention to which one they poured it in. They weren't so machbid on it. So it ended up that there wasn't something that was on their list of. It didn't hit the hierarchy to make sure you get it in the right bowl. I'm not sure why, but that's what it sounds like in this Gemara.
Why not say the smoke was there? Black.
I don't know. I was bothered by the smoke thing because I thought the smoke went straight up.
Like
was that one of the Nisim? Maybe it was only in the first place in Midrash. There was one of the Nisim. Was that the smoke? No matter how windy it was, the smoke just went straight up. Yeah, maybe they're different. There were different fires on the Mizbeach. So that was only the main one. Maybe the other fires didn't have that. Okay, but that's interesting. Maybe turn black from the smoke. Yeah.
These bowls were always there? I think they just put these bowls there just for...
the Nisa Chayayin was every day.
Every day, yeah.
So I assume they were both there. I mean, it definitely sounds like that. If it was Shel Sid, it sounds like it was attached to the Mizbeach.
Mizbeach is stone.
It was part and it was. I mean, it had pipes going in. It was
sit in between maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Like the Marvite, so that holds like two spouts or two nostrils. So the Mar says, it sounds like the Mishnah is like Rabbi Yehuda. Why? Did not Rabbi Yehuda? I mean, like Menasek Kol Shmeina. Rabbi Yehuda says you only use one leg. The Rabbanan ki adaduninu. According to the Rabbanan, it was the same amount. They were both 3 lug. So why would one hole have to be thick and one hole have to be thin? If they're the same amount, what difference does it make? Gemara says, I feel Tamer Rabbanon. No, the Mishnah is Rabbanon because Chamra Samich Maya Kolish. Wine is thick, and therefore it would go down slower. So therefore it needed a wider pipe, as opposed to water, which was thinner. So therefore you had to have a thinner pipe for the water and a thicker pipe for the wine, in order for them to come out at the same thickness. Maisa makes to say that it's not Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbi Yehuda, Rachav the Kutzer is like, we have a brisa, and Rabbi Yehuda used a different language. He used the language of Rachav and Kutzer, not of and Me'uva and Dak. Rashi says Rachav and Kutzer is mashma wider, or it is a bigger discrepancy between Rachav and Kutzer, wide and thin, as opposed to thick and thin. Says the Gemara, the Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda, kasvois hayusham. There were two pipes there, shalmayim, the echad shal yain, one for water, one for wine. Shal yain pia rachav. For the wine, it was a wide mouth, and shalmayim pia kutzer. For the water, it was a skinny one. In order they should both go down at the same time. Shema mina that the Tana is not Rabbi Yehuda, it is the Rabbana. And we will stop here, and we'll continue with Hashem tomorrow. Shkaya
guys.
Good night. How do I stop recording?
Good night. Good night. Good night, Jim.